This is the demo for my serializer. So first we're just going to show that it goes through and successfully serializes each of the object types. So as you can see, as I'm stepping through, each of the appropriate serializers is being called for these primitive types, Boolean. Now we've gotten to an enum, and the way I did it was I got the class name of the object, and for these, for the enum color red, the class of the enum was actually a string, so it would be serializing the enum and then serializing the value of that, the red value, to a string. Now we're looking at an object array of values, and as you can see, the top level is an array serializer, and then a string serializer for each of the values, an enum serializer for the enum, and a string serializer for the value of the enum. And at the bottom you can see it's successfully deserialized. Go through, now we're going to serialize a list, and here again you should see the top level is a list serializer, and then we go through and serialize each of the elements. And the way I did list serialization was I first serialized that it was a list and then added the length of it so I knew how many elements to get from buffer. And again, we'll see here that it successfully deserializes a list with a null value this time. And for the null value, I wrote a wrapper class called a null value wrapper that simply indicates when we have a null value stored in the buffer. And here we see a deserialization of the set. And you can see at the bottom the hash set serializer is called. Again, this is a map now. You can see the top level is the map serializer. And that each of the values within it, a double serialized and a string is serialized. Same thing here, you should see that now we're doing a hash table. The bottom level is a hash table serializer. The first thing called is the hash table serializer. Next we're doing a list of sets and a list of maps. And you can see that it successfully deserializes the entire thing. And that there's many calls for recursive calls for serialization at this point. Here we'll see that the recursive translation, and I got it to successfully serialize, but on deserialization I wasn't able to obtain a reference to the object, so if it is a recursive, it simply says it's a null value when it comes out on the other end, which isn't obviously right, but that's what I got to. Next we'll deserialize a bean, and you can see that there that there's the well, scroll up a bit. You can see that the bean is successfully deserialized into the new object, into the right object, and at the top it is successfully serialized. And as you can see here, this was one run through with a byte buffer and one run through with a string buffer, and it was all done completely without errors, so it works for both. Now for plugging it into our Gypsy simulation, I was able to set it as my serializer, but because some of the elements in the bean weren't able to be serialized, it didn't work in my Gypsy. So what we'll see is that when attempting to introduce the client to the server, there was an error deserializing two properties, and in the server that led it to not being able to derive the method. So that's as far as I got for the Gypsy simulation.